Hello and welcome to Exploring Personal Pedagogy. My name's Glenn Denny, also known as the Male Practitioner, and I'm delighted today to be joined by the presenter of Play School TV, a teacher and trainer passionate about harnessing play in learning, and also the best-selling author of Can I Go and Play Now? It's amazing, Greg Bottrill. Greg, welcome.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you for the invitation to come on, and happy to chat with you.
Brilliant. So, Greg, tell me about, prior to kind of doing your consultation work and becoming an author, and you've got your second book out just now, haven't you?
It says yes.
Well,
yes.
You can give that one a plug if you like. Go on. So you were a teacher beforehand. So kind of how did you go from into early years? So what was your journey into that?
I had a life before teaching. I started teaching when I was 35, I think it would have been. Yeah, 35. So I did various different things beforehand. One of the things that I did was worked in a scrap store in Gloucester. So people might be familiar with scrap stores where and we used to, as part of that, go into schools and run projects. It was in Gloucester, which has got quite high levels of deprivation, sort of pockets of it, quite big pockets of deprivation. So we used to go into schools and settings and go and sort of set up play activities for all the children, and I absolutely loved it. And it was kind of part of the job that I really enjoyed. Up until then, I'd always had this ambition to become a secondary school teacher. I wanted to be, I know, it's mad, isn't it? I wanted to be an English teacher. I'm really passionate about writing and fiction and poetry. So I wanted to actually be an A-level teacher, but for various reasons, it never really worked out. And when I was working at the scrap store, we managed to get some funding to go out to Reggio Emilia to their international week. I know, it was back in the day of the Labour government when they were kind of sort of funding pretty much everything. I've told this tale before. Yeah. I know, we even got a budget for wine, which was amazing. I know. And
you get a sandwich and a cup of coffee these days.
Yeah, I know. But it was a whole. I think if I remember, it was 10 days. I think 10 days out in Reggio Emilia. It was 5 of us went. I think if I remember rightly, and we just immersed ourselves in this completely different culture. It was extraordinary, and it kind of sort of sowed the seed of, do you know what? I reckon I really enjoy interacting with the children. I can see they've got something about them, and I can see this different culture. So that kind of was kind of sort of began to spark the idea. And then along came my daughter, and she, I think parenting, I don't know, clearly it changes you, because you no longer, you're not just yourself. You've got this unit and this tiny little thing that you've got to invest with love and time and attention. And I just loved playing with her. I just loved going out and on adventures, and it just made me see that she had something about her, and she didn't need filling up with things. I just had to listen to her more and go with her.
It was that time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Time's a huge thing. And so I decided what I would do is I would go back to university. And so we had a year of living hand to mouth. Had no income, just on a grant. And it was just incredible. It was just, I don't know, it kind of showed me, I worked in quite deprived schools, and it just showed me that connection was massive for children. And I felt as though some of the educators that I was seeing were very much delivery of content and of pre-planned lessons, and it felt very disconnected to the children. I knew I wanted to do it in a different way when I finally graduated.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to get a job down in Devon and work for a head teacher that could see I had hopefully some soul and some creativity. I did 1 year in Key Stage 2 in year 4, and then she invited me to come down to early years, and I never looked back. So I kind of sort of did, I guess I kind of sort of learned on the job. If I kind of went down quite Key Stage 2-y. But very quickly, I learned that there was magic happening all around, and I had to
Yeah.
leave all pre-planned stuff, and I just had to go with the children. And I don't know. In my training, I talk about this magic door that opens up when you play with children, and believe me, the magic door just went.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And I just decided I just didn't want to. I was going to go for that door and never come back. So I'm still deep in the magic somewhere with children. They're extra. You know, children are extraordinary, as you know, and you'll see. You know, you see in your own practice, don't you? They just. I think they just show us
They do.
how
Well,
the
they
world
teach us as well as us teaching them, and that's
is.
something
So
that, you know, you were saying that, you know, you went to Reggio Emilia, and I think that's something that is talked about a lot there, is that it's not just, you know, the the teacher teaching, but the child is also teaching, so the teacher must be
absolutely,
expected to learn as well. And I think you
absolutely.
kind of, you harness that from that experience and also from your own life experience as well.
I totally, absolutely, and I think one of the things that I've really become very passionate about is this idea of not only co-adventuring with children, because I do believe that every day, whether you're in a nursery, childminder, or reception, or even in year six, every day should be an adventure with children. They
Hmm.
deserve it. They deserve something. They do. They deserve to have a day that grips them, and that they take us in a on a they take us with them, lead us by the hand, and take us on this adventure. But
Hmm.
ultimately, it's this idea of, so there's co-adventure, but also like co-researching as well. I'm really fascinated by that in terms of allowing children to have time and space to show us what they know, and by
Hmm.
doing that, what we do is, my belief is we begin to unpick what childhood is. So it's not just about the children themselves,
Hmm.
but also a greater thing. What is childhood? Because that's something I've become incredibly passionate about beyond play. Play is amazing, of course, but I think it's too easy to dismiss if you don't understand it.
Hmm.
Whereas childhood probably is a bit more emotive and more easier to understand for the adult world. So I've become quite passionate about that, but that's all based on Reggio, I guess, and Froebel and all the sort of Montessori, and again, it's taking some of the influences
Hmm.
and just picking what resonates in your own heart.
I think so. So is that kind of like, if we're talking about your personal pedagogy then,
Yeah.
which is kind of what this series is about,
Yes.
what makes up your own personal pedagogy? If you were kind of like, if you imagine a great big cooking pot on the stove, and you've got a whole shelf full of all these amazing, wonderful ingredients, what
Yes.
ingredients would you put into it?
So certainly it would be freedom,
Hmm.
choice, creativity.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely collaboration. There's lots of things that begin with C. Basically, it's ultimately childhood. What it's about, this idea of valuing children,
Hmm.
and valuing children, what they've got to show us and what they've got to say, and seeing it as a two-way. It's a two-way relationship. It's like a dance in a
Hmm.
way that you're doing with children. There's like an interplay that you have, um, and certainly freedom is definitely a big one. And my belief is that we don't, again, this idea of the magic of children, which is in
Hmm.
book number 2, is this idea of, if you the amount of choice and freedom that we give children is a mirror back to us.
Hmm.
How much we value children. If we enable play, then it mirrors back to us. If we control children, then that mirrors back to us.
Yeah,
It mirrors a lack of faith.
got to have
And
that trust in them, haven't we?
absolutely, absolutely. And we work in a tradition where there isn't much faith in children, particularly. Do you know what I mean? Where it's often
Hmm.
the educator, here's my curriculum, and or this is what I'm looking for on my little tick list, and we're going to go with that. And it's trying to. I think for me, it's trying to see beyond that and seeing childhood for what it is. It's something extraordinary. But I
It's kind
also
of,
believe
it's a big shift. It's kind of moving away from this kind of traditional view of a tick box teaching
massively,
to
massively.
allowing the children to go, okay, this is what I'm interested in, and us supporting that. Because I mean,
Yes,
one term that resonates with me is scaffolding, and
yes,
us being the scaffolders, and I've kind of likened it to um, building a house, and it's the child is the house, and we're there to support this building as this structure grows and grows and grows. And I think that's kind of what we need to do. We need to kind of step back away from our curriculums and
Yes.
actually trust that the children will learn if they're given the right tools to do it.
Hugely so. Oh, hugely so, completely. And, just off air, we were talking before about, this idea of curriculum and writing a curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I'm really fascinated about, and I'm currently doing some work in lockdown about, is this idea of, I'm calling it the infinite curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
where I know it sounds mad, but there is no curriculum. The infinite curriculum swallows the curriculum, because it means that learning can go anywhere. The adult doesn't come in with predetermined ideas of what should happen. They allow it to happen.
Yeah.
And you've seen in your own practice, and I'm sure the people watching this will have done, the numbers of children that I've worked with where you think, well, in the EYFS, it talks about, counting within 20, but many children are fascinated by counting way, way, way beyond that,
Mm-hmm.
in billions and thousands. And they're interested in, lots of kinds of mathematics. And the idea is kind of through play to allow this infinite curriculum to really live. So it's something that I'm beginning to explore in my next piece of writing that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've called it the hidden soul. And
Mm-hmm.
I do believe almost like children have got a hidden soul, and it's about allowing it to unfold. And when we do that, our hidden soul unfolds as well. I know it sounds really hippie, souls and everything, but I do believe in it. I do believe it's a very powerful connection that we can have with children, because we were children once, weren't we?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a
I
reminder.
probably haven't grown up, but
I was just about to say, Glenn, you probably haven't, and neither have I. And that probably is what makes a really high quality early years educator, is because you haven't actually, to a degree, grown up in inverted commas. You've still got an element of childhood within you.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think you need that. I think you need to be able to play in order to let them play and to learn and to discover with them.
Yes.
You've got
Absolutely.
to share that joy of discovery. As
Yeah.
if it was
No,
your first
absolutely.
time discovering it too.
Yes. Oh, hugely. And I think, one of the things pedagogically that I've become really interested in, not only is this, so the infinite curriculum idea is something that I'm just working on developing at the minute. But the other one that I'm really beginning to be passionate about is the idea of co-playing.
Mm-hmm.
So what it says is that if you take play in its very purest form, the purest definition of play would be that it's often in the absence of an adult, and that children can choose to quit when they want to. So, if we look at the work of, say, Peter Gray and his definitions of play, it's very much about the choice, the freedom to quit.
Mm-hmm.
But often in our settings, there isn't the freedom to quit, and there is always an adult present. It's quite an engineered experience. So you could argue it's not necessarily pure play. You could argue. So I've begun to sort of think about that and about our relationships and interactions with children. And I've begun to really see this idea of co-playing as being something really important, where not only we are co-researching with children, but also what we're doing is we are in the play itself. So we become part of the play. So we're interacting with the children, but we are seen as co-players, and children just invite us in because it's this idea of when we're around, something good will happen. Or could happen. So it's almost like an equal value. So I've gotten the same kind of level, if you like, as the children. I'm just taller and I know a bit more, but I'm kind of letting go of the ego of being the educator all the time. You know what I mean? And like I then go and become this, I don't know, just I'm joining in with the play. So I've kind of got that. That's something in my own pedagogy that I'm really beginning to explore, and that's just come from hearing Peter Gray talk last year in Athens. Just to think, okay, so what is play? What do I mean by play? What is my definition? Can I find a definition that really works so that I can explain it? Because as you know, it's very hard to explain play at times, isn't it?
Definitely.
It's really misunderstood.
Because I think as well, if you're trying to explain it to parents, I think parents are one of the difficult ones to explain it to. Explaining it to another professional, they get what we're on about. But if you explain it to a parent, you say, oh, well, we were busy playing this today. Oh, okay, that's nice. Play to them is just a way of occupying the children whilst they're doing something else, like making the dinner or whatever. Whereas for us, play, we know, is critical. It's vital for their learning, because they're learning so much more by whatever, pulling something apart, or or just investigating something.
Absolutely. And the sort of parents would have been through a system in the education system in their own work, where what you do is you work and then you get the reward. You work then, but play is its own reward. And then it's that what happens is it gets separated. Play and learning get separated. And the idea of co-playing, and the idea of, whether you call it, child-led or child-appropriate, or whatever phrase we might use, the idea is to try and take play and learning and bring them back together. And as best we can, as early years practitioners, try and glue them together as much as we can, and show children the value of it, so that when they go on to the next steps of their journey, they themselves begin to question why it goes like this. Because that's what happens eventually, isn't it? You work and then you go and have playtime. Or, I've done lots of settings like that, where we do our task and then you get to go and play in the continuous provision. But the message to the children is that bit of play isn't as value as this bit.
No,
as what
it all needs to be valued.
And it's all needs to be valued. Absolutely. And by the way, it's not just about play. I do believe there's value in direct teaching with children and bringing to the carpet. Absolutely. But it's this marriage between the two, of play and not play, and how they work together. And making sure that everything, I think it comes back to skills. If we can't plan play, because I don't think, you can't plan play because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
What you can plan is for yourself, your own interactions, the kinds of things that knowing your own curriculum, knowing where play can take learning, and being open-minded enough to be able to go, okay, so I'm now co-playing with you, take me with you, and along the way I'm going to sprinkle some skills over the top, whatever that might be. But the child is also going to sprinkle their magic on me as well. So it's kind of like a two-way process.
Definitely. It's got to be, I think, as well, because we've got to be on par with them, I think, as well. It's like you say, we're kind of like a child, but we're a bit taller and know a bit more. But I think we've got to shrink ourselves down. We need that magic potion to shrink ourselves down to being with them. And kind of, I always like to think that, when they discover something, I'm sharing it with them.
Yes.
Kind of an example in my own practice, and I know it's not play-based, but is when one of our babies learns to walk for the first time. I mean, I will sit there and I will cry my eyes out, because it is the most emotionally wonderful thing ever. But that's kind of a good example of me sharing something with that child. It's like, I'm so happy that they've done it. And it's likewise if I go to preschool and they've learned to zip up their own jackets, brilliant, because they've done it themselves, and it's just amazing. And I'm just like, oh, well done you, that is amazing, I didn't know you could do that, show me how you did it. And it's just, you've got to share that joy with them.
Absolutely. And I think, your word share is really important. It's not about the adult just giving the child the curriculum. It's I kind of talk about a shared space, two spaces, two worlds coming together, and there's a shared space within there that actually ultimately is about exploration and discovery, because that's what play is, isn't it? One of its definitions is about learning about the world and your place in it and who you are by discovering yourself, others, and your role within it. Most children are, don't they have like a really, I still believe that children are born mathematical, for example. I do think they are. I think that it's an impulse that we have. What happens is they get told about mathematics, a certain way to do mathematics, and it kind of jars against their program.
Yeah.
And so they become unmathematical, and then that stays with us. And it's that idea of, if we shared it and we listened to children about how, rather than just like, this is your lesson, and actually, well, like you said, it's that thing of, well, the child's also got a lesson for me, and what is it? Am I going to be open-minded enough to share? So yeah, sharing is a great word.
Definitely. Sharing is caring, as the saying goes.
Oh, there you go.
Well, Greg, thank you so much for your time today. It's been amazing to talk to you and to share your thoughts and your views and your passion for it as well. And yeah, to share some time with you as well. It's been amazing. So
No, of
thank you
course.
so much.
Well, no, likewise. And again, it's just been lovely to, before we record it, but also now, it's always lovely just to talk to practitioners and educators that share that passion and want the absolute best for children. And all the work that you're doing sounds really exciting, and long may it continue. And let's adventure together along the way.
Certainly will. Greg Bottrill, thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.